Good. I just got one question because all of you graduated from respective schools. How can a whole bunch of smart people who went to college, graduated from high school, assistant secretary, they graduated, come together, see the same information, agree on it, and be totally wrong? When Baylor University saw that I graduated 249 out of 260, ACT of a 10, SAT of a 600, they immediately said, no, you're not college material. Because they saw the paper. And when you think about your work and what you do, you spend a lot of time in paper looking at data. But when you really think about it, every one of us in here, we're not paper, we're people. But for the most part, most of us don't get to present ourselves, our heart, our mind, our intentions. We have to present our paper, whether we're trying to get into school or whether we're trying to get that next job. We've got to do all of that in 2 pages or in a transcript. And most of us, even on our best resume or our best transcript, doesn't measure how good we really and truly are. And even a bad transcript or a bad resume doesn't reflect that we're really bad. Of course, that was a trick. But the next time you're dealing with paper and numbers, as much as you possibly can, see if you can see who that paper and number might be in terms of a person. We live in the greatest country there is. We live in America. All of us are Americans. Some of us perhaps are Asian Americans. Some of us perhaps are Mexican Americans. Some of us perhaps African Americans. But it's the last part about being who we are in this country. It's about being American, the I can portion. Whether you're Asian American, whether you're Mexican American, whether you're African American. In February I did this and I had some people that really objected. They said, hey, we're not African American. I said, what are you? They said, we're black. So I said, okay. I like that, yeah. It's true. There is nothing that you can't learn. I don't care, nothing that you can't learn. It may take you a little longer than the person sitting in front of you or behind you or beside you, but you can learn it. During the noon hour when the band was playing from Skyline, I sat with several of the students. And I asked one of them, I said, what classes are you taking? He started telling me pre-AP this. And then he said, French 3. He was an African-American young boy. I go, French 3? Wow, how you taking French 3? I said, that's got to be difficult. He goes, nah, it's not that hard. I said, how do you know French? He goes, I was born there and I lived there for 11 years. We put boundaries on one another, but as long as we're Americans or have that access, we can do this thing. If you don't believe me, believe this. Can you click on that for me? One more click. See if it'll work on the click. That's okay. We'll move to the next. Can you get it? You can't beat technology, can you? While we have this little break, during the exposition with the vendors, I walked by and I saw a high school, and they made a button for me. Interesting group. They're called Dubisky Career High School. And I talked to those young people and I said, you know, where's your high school located? It's located in Grand Prairie. I said, how long has your high school been in existence? They said 2 years. They had a group of young men and young women who were automotive and collision repair. They were incredibly excited. I said, what'd you do? What were you doing before this? They said, well, we're just kind of going to school. They wanted to show me how they can put a car back together again if it's all crashed up. I walked down a little further, and there was another group talking about their graphics. They made me a button. They were so excited. The assistant secretary just told you, rigor and relevance makes a difference in these young people's lives. They wanted to see something that made sense in what they're doing. Literally speaking, many of them are going to be able to get out of high school and be able to, believe it or not, get some kind of career almost immediately. I hope they'll take it to the next level. But they were super, super excited. And we've got to have that. We've got to get our young people super excited. And all it takes is getting them to be challenged and letting them see, literally, the relevance of that. If you would, move to the next one. Will that pop out and move to the next one? That technology, boy, is a man's best friend, isn't it? Okay, here we go. This is the only math I'm going to talk about right here. A little formula that simply says L equals T times R times E with a plus mark on it. In fact, when we close, if you could go back to that blank slide, we want to close on that one. We're going to make that one work. This means learning equals time on task times resources times positive experiences. I'm absolutely convinced. I just told you earlier, there's nothing that we can't learn as long as we have time on task, resources, and positive experiences. If I were to ask you, why are there so many black males in the NBA? I can kind of tell you. All you got to do is drive through the neighborhoods right now as school's getting out. What does it take to learn how to play basketball? One, it just needs something round. It doesn't even have to be a basketball, and it doesn't have to be a regulation hoop and a net. They'll make something on a garage or on the side of a tree, and they get time on task. They get positive feedback, expectations by making it in the hoop. They have the resources. They're doing this when they're 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, and they get to be in the 8th grade and 9th grade in high school. They've been playing basketball more than half of their life. What does it take to learn how to play golf? One, it certainly takes time on task. It takes resources and it takes positive experiences. It takes money just to go find a place to play golf. You can't play in your apartment complex. You can't play it in your house, or Big Mama certainly would beat you. But it's examples just as small as that relate to every other educational opportunity, whether it's math or science or English or a foreign language. We can learn. It's not a color base. It's not even based on your age. You're never too old to learn at all. Community colleges keep showing that, having students from the age of 16 to 96. We had someone 94 graduate this past year. This says it best. Think about this. Heavier than flying machines are impossible. Said so by Lord Kelvin, President of Royal Society in 1895. This telephone has too many shortcomings to be seriously considered as a means of communication. This device is inherently of no value. Talking about the telephone that everyone has in their pocket now, back in 1876. Computers in the future may weigh no more than 1.5 tons. Said by Popular Mechanics magazine in 1949. I think this may be a world market for maybe 5 computers. Tom Watson, chairman of IBM, 1943. And then 640K ought to be enough for anybody. Bill Gates, 1981. And then finally, there's no reason anyone would want a computer in their home, said by Ken Olsen, president of Digital Equipment Corporation, 1977. I share those thoughts because that's how it was then, and this is how it is now. When people said you can't do things, the reality of it is it's endless what one can do. It really and truly is. It's really endless what one can do. There's a saying that says, college is not for everybody, but education is. I repeat, college is not for everybody, perhaps, but education is. I'm going to put a quick plug, though. Community colleges, on the other hand, have a lot of training programs that just get you in the world of work. Yeah, we can put applause right there. Because so many people are so scared to walk back to college after being out 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 years. It takes a lot to step up and to say, I'm coming now to get what I maybe should have gotten 20 years ago. And what people are wanting is whomever's there to help them to say, you've come to the right place. Not that you're going to go take a test. We're going to help you fill this application out and find where you need to be and what you want to do. We've got to have that kind of attitude. If I ask you this question, who's responsible for the airplane? You would say, the Wright brothers. Great. Now, if I asked you what college or University of Higher Learning or School of Engineering did they go to, you would say what? Embry-Riddle, where did they go? What college, where did the Wright brothers, the people who are chiefly responsible for the airplane that's changed everybody's life, where did they go to school? And when you think about it, they didn't go to school. What was their profession? What was their relevance? They were bicycle mechanics, and there wasn't a motor on the bicycle, so they fixed flats, spokes, and handlebars and frames. How can a couple of people who have, on paper, no education, no formal education, come up with an idea and a concept and put it into action and change the world and lives of you and I forever? Just like the Wright brothers, there are young people in your schools and in your household who have those same visions, same goals, can do the same thing on a different level. Don't hinder them. Make certain you encourage them. But it certainly helps if they can be spurred along by taking what others have done and taking it to another level. Will Rogers says this: even if you're on the right track, if you just sit there, you're going to get run over. And it's so true. So often we arrive and think we have made it when we graduate high school or college. And so often, many of our young people are around people that once they graduate, they park. And the people around them said, you've arrived, you made it. In reality, all that piece of paper means is that you completed a curriculum in something, somewhere, and you should be able to be competitive in the world of work and do something. That is the missing link, and that's why I'm glad business is here with educators, because the piece of paper means nothing if the student can't put it into action. There's a little company called, how many heard of Eckerd Drugs? Great drugstore. How many been to an Eckerd's lately? They're not in business, are they? They're kind of bought out. Why? They were #1 about 10 years ago, the #1 drugstore in this country. But one thing, they didn't change one thing, and it was a little thing. The hours of Eckerd Drugs were basically about 7 a.m. to about 10:30 p.m. Another company, Walgreens and CVS, came in and put their stores right across the street. And they made their hours and realized that people get sick 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so they never close. And as a result, that one strategy by itself, not rocket scientists, but simple, but practical.